and let's go on to some stuff. So Ilyas, you can stop here. Anjali or Sohail, one of you can start on what do you think is web services according to you?
Ladies first. Anjali, you want to go?
Nothing like that. If you want to talk, you can talk. No ladies first, nothing. This is subject matter. This is not any moral ethics or bullshit kind of stuff. Fahim, yeah, this guy is Hafiz. Hi, Hafiz.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, good. And one more thing, when you discuss with me about the interview schedules, don't discuss with me. You go directly discuss with this guy, Subhash or Khalid or Muhammad Salman, because they can schedule for you. You discussing with me, I'll be so busy and I'm not even sure what I'll talk to you. So better discuss with the marketing team, guys. Okay?
Okay.
They know my schedule anyway. Yeah.
Thank you.
Back. Sohail and Anjali, one of you can tell what do you think about web services, general understanding.
I mean, it's used to communicate between.
Okay. What else?
For example, right now we are working on a REST architecture where we are using those to.
No, REST and all will come later. That's fine because
to integrate front end and back end. Can I say that?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
See, what is web services? What do you think about web services? See, I'll tell you one thing.
Okay.
This REST APIs, all these things, we are seeing it now. Now, in the sense, in the last 5-6 years. But if you see traditionally in the last 20 years or in general, there is something called concept of web services, which is pretty much called.
Web service is what we see on the internet. Like that's how we communicate with the backend. Through which we communicate with the backend.
No, Anjali. Yes. See, modern services are communicating with the backend, but web services means, let me give an example. I will take some microservices because that's our focus. See, now thing is, whatever you guys are saying that front end to back end, that is correct. I'm not saying that is bad, but point is, that is not the concept. Why? Because if you see web services, what do you get? No, I'll go with the Wikipedia for this time. Actually, this is a really good term. You might not understand each and every word in this. The point is, you have one device somewhere in the network. There is some other device somewhere else in the network. Now, these two things has to communicate. Have you anytime heard of technologies called CORBA?
Long back it used to be there, yeah.
CORBA. Then we have Microsoft ODBC. Then we have Java JDBC. So basically, JDBC is Java database connectivity. Microsoft ODBC is more like open database connectivity with respect to Microsoft integrations they have got. Then there is something called, at that time, I'm talking about 10-15 years back or even more, ODBC, JDBC bridges, something like that. And CORBA was actually kind of failure in my opinion. Common ORB means common object request broker architecture, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then the thing is, they all focused on one thing. How will you communicate from one system in the network to another system when there is no type similarity? It could be different thing of OS, everything. There came this term called web services, so that anything on the web you can communicate, so that you can transfer images, you can transfer JSON data, XML data, etc. That's where we got HTML, hypertext markup language. You can pretty much transfer anything from one place to another place. Now, a variant of this, they created something called SOA. Initial came, these are all theory. Initial came is SOA, Services Oriented Architecture. In fact, you can say, I would say, parent of microservices. So basically what happens is, your intention is just to communicate between one system in the network to another one. There, with respect to web services, there was something called SOAP. SOAP means, the name is Simple Object Access Protocol. It is like a tunneling over HTTP. Tunneling means, in this case, the data that is going is actually going on top of HTTP. HTTP is nothing but our stuff which we normally use. There's one more thing called FTP, File Transfer Protocol. Does any of you used FTP except Ilyas? Others, did you use, guys?
No.
Anjali?
Not really.
Not
no,
really.
HTTP calls only.
Okay. So Anjali, what do you know about FTP? Can you just think? I mean, what do you visualize?
FTP is the file transfer protocol, right?
Excellent. That's the definition. But have any time used it?
Like when we communicate with each other, there should be a protocol for the transfer of data.
No. I'll tell you. Okay. So this guy Askari also joined. Oh, Askari joined. Good. See, FTP, HTTP, all these things. Now here, let me talk about, maybe today and next session also will be more on theory. Let me talk about something called ISO OSI model. There is something called application stack. Anytime heard about this application stack?
Yeah, I mean.
7-layered stack. Now Ilyas can talk.
No,
7-layered stack.
Yeah, 7 layers.
See, somebody who knows theory very well is coming and saying something.
No, it's not about theory, man. This is important. Why? Because this is not just theory. This is the concept, and this is very useful in interviews. And more than
Anjali very
interviews,
recently.
yeah, because now all the stuff we are doing. Let me put this thing somewhere. Yeah, somewhere. At least I will drop it to. Can we minimize this? Bullshit. Okay. So, see this physical layer thing. This is something called ISO OSI model. Means International Standards Organization, Open System Interconnection. How the systems are communicating in a network. This is there since 90s, whatever. Now, point is, when we typically go, let me copy this image address. Yeah, I like. See, typically, if you go, what's happening? We have physical wires. We have this optical cables. We talk about connection-oriented networks. We talk about Ethernet over optics. All those blah blah blah. Fine. Finally, it's a data transmission. Then on top of wires, you need some kind of control in terms of switches, all these things. That is normally we say data link layer. Data link layer in the sense where we talk about MAC address. MAC address is some 48-bit unique address, which each router, any network device will have a MAC address, which responds to LLC means logical link connection. Data layer, we say, sorry, data link layer means something which is sitting on top of physical layer to do some control. Then we talk about routers. When we typically talk routers, they are coming in this network layer. Network layer is the one we talk about IP address, ICMP protocol. Okay, now in the normal commands, Linux or Windows commands, did any of you used ping, P-I-N-G command?
Yes.
Can anyone tell me what is pinch? Sorry, P-I-N-G, ping, not pinch. Ping,
I mean,
what is ping?
I think it's a way to like check your local host.
Okay, what else? What else you can talk about ping?
Is to check whether the local host is available on the network or not.
Yeah.
Not
Good
only
man,
local host,
Sohail, you are a
remote.
good company to Anjali, and as much as possible you can join. It is very interesting. Good. See, whatever you guys said is fine, but there is something called ICMP protocol. Have any time heard about ICMP protocol?
Just by name.
Excellent, fine. See, basically what this ICMP protocol means.
Internet Control Protocol, Transfer Protocol. What was that?
No.
Internet
Yeah, transfer
service,
control,
yeah.
packet, internet, Grover or something. There is something is there. See, basically, it is based on ICMP protocol. It's basically a control management protocol. And normally, if you see in the command line, whether it is Linux or Windows, say I'm pinging something. Wait, I'm pinging google.com. So in Windows, you'll only shows pings for 4 times. In Linux, if you run ping, it will keep on going on till you stop it.
Okay.
That's fine. So basically what is ping doing is, first, you are actually converting using DNS, domain name system, DNS thing, convert from a domain name to address, some physical address, like is public address of Google. Then you are saying, are you able to reach it? When you're able to reach it, it will send some dummy data. That's what it is. what is the time it has taken. Then what is a TTL? TTL means a time to live kind of thing. So basically, this is like they have a convention, means how many hops it has made. When I say hops, what I mean is, for example, I'm sitting in Houston, to be exact, I think this area is called Missouri City. From Missouri City, from my internet router, means my provider, it is going to some other place. From there, some other place. Finally, it will go to some endpoint which is sitting at the edge of USA. Or yeah, somewhere within USA. Now, let's say it is reaching something called DNS server or something. So to reach there, it is doing some hops, which we say network hops. So ideally, ping is about that. Sometimes if you say some address which is blocked in your private IP address, let's say 12.12.12.123, something which is existent but you cannot reach, you don't get anything. It will try to send data and finally you will get timed out. So basically what happens is there is some time limit which you can check certain things. So ping is based on that. What is ping? It is a control management protocol. So ping works in the network and everything is network layer. This is enough here. Now transport layer is all about the TCP and UDP. TCP means typically all the data transmission, we use it for TCP. UDP means that streaming like audio, video, all these things, they work in a UDP way. User datagram protocol, something. Now here all this SSL stuff, all these things comes here. Now main thing I want to focus is application layer. See, in the application layer, what we send is data. Protocols like HTTP and FTP, they're application layer protocols. That's what meaning by application layer protocol. And see, this is like, it's not, there is really a physical layer of 7. We just visualize in that way. It's like every layer we are giving some responsibilities. The best way to analyze this kind of information is using a tool called Wireshark. WIRESHARK, Wireshark. We can analyze the packets, how it's happening. Sometimes in development also you might be using that. Now point I want to say is the protocols like this FTP, they work based on TCP in the network, in the transport layer. The protocols like you do YouTube, which is a streaming, it uses some streaming protocols, I forgot the name. They're actually using a UDP in the transport layer. So it is much faster and less reliable. So that is the purpose of FTP or HTTP in application layer protocol. This SOAP, any web services is actually on top of the application layer. That means it's actually a data, but you are putting some HTTP packet and sending in this layer. That's what they mean by tunneling, HTTP tunneling. HTTP tunneling means you put some information on top of a application layer with this HTTP. FTP you use only for files. Some companies still use FTP only for file sharing. FTP means, you need to understand, only file sharing. HTTP means you can share pretty much anything you want. Even you can even share virus also. But you don't know that it is a virus. Okay, someone is asking something in the chat. Any questions here, guys? My internet is not working, cannot hear properly. Please put the recording. Yeah, hopefully my internet will be better. Let's see. Oh, today more people joined. Very surprised. Atik. Hi, Atik. So, Ilyas, I'm sure you might have understood.
Hi,
if not, you will go. Hi. If not, you will go and check online. I know about you. Other guys, Sohail and Anjali, any questions in what I said in the last 10 minutes?
Yeah, I definitely got to know what HTTP is. Though I use it, I never knew that it had this purpose.
Hey, oh, Sohail, you good, man. You got a lot of US accent now.
Yeah, been talking with a lot of clients here, so.
Superb. Even I had this kind of accent once, then I went to Symantec India, then I gone. Now it will not come so easily, that's fine.
The thing is that in my team, most of the people are American, so I deal mostly.
Boss, I have been working with Americans all the time, except for last year, which is more in Germany. All the rest of my life, I was working with more Americans only. Symantec, Boeing. Boeing is such a popular company in USA. Just the name of it, this embassy people are like, wow, you're from Boeing, wow. Hey, you worked in Boeing, wow. They're like literally jump.
Yeah, so I definitely know the 7 OSI layers now. I mean, I've read about this back in the days when I was doing my undergrad, but yeah, this was something refreshing again.
Yeah, fine. So basically what I wanted to explain was HTTP tunneling. Then we went to all these things. So SOAP is actually HTTP tunneling. That's what they mean by getting into this. So you tunnel over the HTTP layer. That is fine. Now, so what happened is this services-oriented architecture was there initially, which is like, how will you manage the services across? That's when I think probably 10 years back, all this boom happened. Middleware integration boom, probably some 10 years back, dated from 2020 or maybe 15 years back, 10 to 15 years back. Now, at this time, lot of middleware like MuleSoft, even MuleSoft is still there, but how many people are releasing is a very big debatable thing. MuleSoft, then you see EAI, enterprise application integration like TIBCO, then IBM products, all these things. They got all these services on architecture which you into.
Does JMS, RabbitMQ all do
I'll tell you. Okay, since you asked a question, JMS means, no, let me not put it here because it might confuse. Let me type it in Sublime, then later on you can remove it. See, JMS means Java Messaging Service. Now, to connect to the database, we say something called Hibernate. Hibernate is just one form. Then there is something called IBATIS. These are, we say, ORM. Object relationship management tools. You don't need to write the typical SQL queries so that you manage with respect to entities. We'll come to that later on in something called Spring Data JPA.
Okay.
The way Java implements this, we say, is JPA. Java Persistence API. Persistence means you have some data. Now you're having the data in a physical format. And all of us know best way to store the data is a database. Now we have this NoSQL, which is NoSQL, like not only SQL, where you can store in a unstructured format, all those things. But fundamental concept for the data storing data is JPA. Similarly, Java guys have given a specification called JMS API. Means some kind of a specification, what kind of method should be there, what kind of classes, blah, blah, blah. I think the JMS implemented stuff, best example everyone talks about is ActiveMQ.
Okay.
So messaging, see, JMS means messaging. How do you message from one place to another? It's a messaging queue. What is a queue? FIFO, first in, first out. Messaging queue is you just send some messages in a specific format. That is different. Service is something anyone can call. Anyone can call. See, messaging means whether the other service works or not, you are not sure. It's different. It is more a programming thing. Web service is something at a high level, anyone can access.
Yep.
And since you asked about JMS, let's see the JMS messaging queues following JMS. Because this popular ones like RabbitMQ, which is very popular in the world of Python, now it's even getting popular in Java, they don't follow JMS. No, it's not. Even Kafka, very, very popular. Yeah. They don't follow JMS, it's different. JMS messaging queue is a typing specification, but ActiveMQ, I know it follows JMS, and we'll see what are the, that's the thing. Sometimes the search will not get the exact one. They're explaining about Java message queue is fine, but which queues follow this? I think ZeroMQ and ActiveMQ only.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm not sure.
Because RabbitMQ, I know it does not follow JMS. Does it follow JMS? Let's check. Elias, you know this JMS kind of stuff?
Yeah, JMS, TIBCO, this is that something related?
TIBCO is different. TIBCO is a EAI, Enterprise Application Integration, completely different. Completely different.
Okay, okay.
And TIBCO is a suite of so many products. It has one other thing called TIBCO Spotfire, which is very similar to Tableau. It's a reporting visualization tool. I've used it. But TIBCO is having a lot of enterprise products, integration middleware, you can say. It became very popular in the time of that web services. TIBCO, IBM products, all these things. Yeah, ZeroMQ also. See, ZeroMQ means ZeroMQ, there is a tool. AMQP, Active Message, I think ActiveMQ. JMS WebSphere. Okay, I think this one follows JMS.
Okay.
Yeah, because JMS is not followed by every tools. RabbitMQ does not follow JMS. And ZeroMQ follows. Then more favorite tool nowadays for many, Kafka does not follow a JMS. You need to use a separate API for working with Kafka, and actually it's very popular.
Okay.
WebSphere means I think it's IBM. So these follow JMS. So Java messaging service is different. Later on, somewhere in the course, we'll discuss about JMX. It's some, again, transaction related stuff. We'll see JMX later.
Okay.
Yeah. Now coming to the web services and service oriented architecture. So pretty much this MuleSoft integrations, this kind of integration middleware has became boom like anything. Now I think around this time, this SOAP became very popular. Even now SOAP is still used. Let me give an example of SOAP. Let's say there is a flight booking guys, some central guys. For example, forget about the so many airlines we have now. There is only 10 airlines, just assume, or 20 airlines. Now, obviously, when you have airlines, you need to have agents. They need to book this flight booking, all those stuff. Now, let's say there are 100 agents throughout the world and 20 airlines. Now, this 100 airlines, 20, if you try to put a combination of each of them, like M into N, it will become like what? 20 into 100, 2000 different communication channels. So, it's very, very hard to maintain this way. This SOAP web services, how it works is, airlines people, they give some service. There is a SOAP thing called, let me explain you the concept of SOAP, how it works. We are not going very deep in that, but you just need to know at least what is SOAP web service. SOAP web service architecture. I'm not satisfied. SOAP.
Yeah, we need some envelopes.
Actually, there is something called UDDI. Similar things we use in REST API. So, hell, if you remember, even for your interviews or even Ilias, we would have talked about these terms called Zool integration, Eureka integration, all those stuff for REST services.
Yeah, Microsoft.
Actually, it came from SOAP only.
Oh.
It's like discovery of a service, how do you register a service, all these things came from SOAP model only.
Okay.
So REST is actually more a simplified stuff of a SOAP thing.
Okay.
Not just differences. I want SOAP architecture because they have something called UDDI, WSDL. First, you need to understand.
One question. Once you're done with SOAP, I'll ask you that.
Who is this? Sohail?
Yeah.
Ask now itself. It's okay. This is all about discussion, not any spoon feeding kind of training.
But one thing I want to ask, like SOAP, does it only support XML or we can even do it?
No, it only supports XML. Good question. REST supports both XML and JSON, but mainly we use JSON. Some cases we use XML, but SOAP, it supports only XML. Yes, SOAP supports only XML.
Okay.
Balla guddi raskochu nu.
Okay.
Yes, SOAP only XML. Actually, I wanted that SOAP architecture with WSDL and UDDI.
Okay.
SOAP architecture with WSDL and UDDI. Same thing we use in REST also. We use in REST. Oh, tutorials point explained better. He explained more like a concept. I want with the picture because picture means it will be there in your mind more better. This guy has a slide share. Let's see. Oh, this is better. Yes. Let me go to full screen. See, if you see this one, you don't need to understand each and every part of this. This service-oriented architecture, which we talk about web services and SOAP, original thing, like a mother of microservices, whatever. Now, let's take a service request, nothing but agent. Let's say there are 100 agents as we are discussing in the example, and 100 agents, they're registered to someone called service requester, like a central protocol, like Amadeus, AMADUS, even though it's still there, some kind of a requester platform, like a requester central area. It's like you can say like an endpoint, like a REST endpoint. Now, these 100 agents, they will be binded to requester. Let's say I'm agent number 1, my name. I'll be registered with this guy in some way. Now, what happens is this service requester, he creates a SOAP request. When I say SOAP request, just like a REST request, whatever, I create some information. We are not going very deep into SOAP, more as a concept. Now, I create a SOAP information with respect to XML because XML is very strongly typed. So using XML, I'm trying to request with some provider. Which provider? For example, say, I'm the agent, and probably this provider is probably someone related to, say, American Airlines, or something like a Make My Trip, or for example, this one. What is that? Say Bing.com.
Sir, it always uses.
Go on.
It uses client server model.
Which model?
Hello?
Yeah, which model?
Client server.
Yeah, client server model only, but this is very different.
Software.
It's not just client server. I mean, client server is different. Client server means you have an active session, client, like for example, chat. I'm chatting with you. So even the current communication we're doing is like a client server. Means I'm talking something, you are getting it, and I'm getting it back. That is client server. This is not a client server. It is very different. That's the reason they given the term services-oriented architecture. It's like a service. Means whether service is active or not doesn't matter. If it is active, you get some response. So it's not exactly client server. It's much more than that. So with respect to this provider, it's like this. Let's say American Airlines or whatever, I can register my service like an API. And when I'm registering my API service, I'm describing in something that is called WSDL, Web Services Description Language, again an XML. So from, say I'm a American Airlines, I will describe my service in a WSDL format, give it to the service provider. Now, what happens is this information is kept into some registry. That's what we say UDDI, Universal Discovery Interface. So basically, I have like a discovery interface. So what happens is, with respect to the service provider, the person who is providing the service for the agent, he publishes the respective service to the service registry. Now, from the requester point of view, I don't need to contact the service provider all the time. I just call the API, which is there in the service registry, through which I'm getting the information. So it's like a central DB, all this thing. That one example service registry platform is Amadeus. They have this mechanism of service provider and service registry. But the point here is, a requester is getting some information from the UDDI. The way he's getting the information is some service provider creating the format in a WSDL and publishing to the service registry like a bounded service. This pretty much we talk like Zool and Eureka in microservices later on. The model here is, I'm trying to find some information published by someone else. So the services-oriented architecture is pretty much based on this format. Then you have SOAP messages, SOAP envelope, how each exact thing happening, all those things we don't care. But this specific slide, I would say, I think we can clip it, right? Clip this side, yes. Fine, I'll clip it later on and paste it. So point is, SOAP works in some model. So basically, when someone is asking about explain SOAP service, what they essentially meaning is services-oriented architecture. Even REST is a services-oriented architecture in a different way, but REST is about stateless. When we say stateless, what we mean is you don't maintain any session, everything. Even SOAP is not exactly state, but problem with SOAP is you need high authentication, etc. There again, there is one more thing used called SAML. Security Authentication Markup Language. We're not getting into that now. But point is, SOAP works in a specific model with XML. SOAP uses XML, then uses SOA principles. SOA means services oriented architecture. Then Tividan, clip the slide for SOAP diagram. Yeah, we discussed something at a very high level on how SOAP works. Any questions here, guys?
No.
No questions? are completely confused. Ilyas, I know he is definitely going to do Google search later on and read at least for 1 to 2 hours. Right, Ilyas?
No, but I know a little bit about SOAP, that it uses XML in, communication as packets and envelope and security thing and headers and all the stuff. But
is that little bit of information or a lot of information, boss? Okay, Sohail and Anjali, I'm sure you might have understood little bit, and let's go with this Guru itself. Actually, Guru is not a best one in this, but still certain things. But still, I like this in interviews because it summarizes the stuff which exactly these interviewers want.
Yeah, it looks good. Yeah.
Because he has kept a lot of information here. Then also he explains one more thing, when to use SOAP and this thing. See, basically, you don't want to maintain the full state of the information. We go with REST. See, right now you can blindly remember you're going with REST, but REST has some simplicities. When you use JSON format, does anyone know what is, okay, who doesn't know what is a JSON and what is an XML file? It will, I think session will disconnect. So you guys need to join next 5 minutes. But is there anyone, Sohail, Anjali, who doesn't know what is a JSON file, what is a XML file?
No, I definitely know what both of them are.
Yeah, man, you know a lot of stuff. You have been working in something since almost a year.
At
Okay,
least,
Anjali, you know, right? But,
JSON.
yeah? Yeah, Sohail, go on.
No. I said majorly on JSON. I haven't worked on XML.
But at least you know what is an XML file looks like.
Yeah, definitely.
Atik and Hamza, do you guys know what is a JSON and XML file?
Pom.xml. Hope you guys.
Yes. Pom.xml is an XML file. Yes, very good. But I don't think everyone knows about Maven.
JSON, I don't know, sir. I know
Fine, let
about
me show a
little
simple
bit of
illustration
XML.
between JSON and XML.
Okay.
If you see a sample idea on XML and this thing, oh, again Guru is coming. Looks like this guy has very good search engine optimization done. Yeah, this sample thing is good enough for XML and thing. Just see this information. Here they're just putting some information about a student. Let's talk about XML. What you do, student, you put a tag like this. Within the student tag, you put some attributes. For each attribute, you give some value. So XML is more descriptive. In XML, you can even have types. You can say there is something called XML schema. You can say this attribute of ID should have only numbers. You can do this much of specification in XML. You can do that. JSON, it's just like plain information. You have a key value pair. You have a student at the top. You say some key and value. In JSON, you cannot say XML is more descriptive. In JSON, it is like it's just some information, very quick information. JSON doesn't have any type specification. You cannot say like this attribute is a numeric type. You cannot do all those things. So the validation happens to be in your code. That's the reason in XML we say it's a thick client. Thick client means the client has to do a lot of processing. In JSON, client doesn't know anything. You get a file, just pass it on. The code which you are receiving in a form of web service or REST service, you need to process everything. Is a type, is accordingly, could, all those things. So this is a basic difference between XML and JSON. Means JSON file looks like this. It's very simple. Where is this? I think there is an ad called Haze, underwear ad, tagless comfort. Sorry, wrong thing. In XML, you need to put a lot of tags. For everything, you have to say starting tag, all these things. JSON, you just start with a single information of student, proceed with a simple brackets. Whereas in XML, you have to say student like this and end with slash. So for me, when I started reading this, that ad used to come. Does anyone remember that ad? Hey,
Yes, sir.
HAYES, tagless comfort.
Yeah.
They show in a first night scene, someone is using a scissors to cut everything.
Yeah, right in the memory there. One thing I wanted to ask is about Jackson JSON. Like, this is very common whenever you're using.
Yeah, Jackson is a library. I'll come to that.
Okay, later. Okay.
Yeah, no, not later. We'll discuss now itself. At least to understand what is the thing. As Atik or someone asked, what is XML or what is JSON looks like, just to get an understanding. See, main thing is there's so many differences. You don't need to remember each and everything. But point is, whenever you read something, you get a doubt. Like he's asking about Jackson. We'll just go more deep into that. See, Jackson is a Jackson. See, what is Java? In .NET, you will not see all these terms. You will see Microsoft .NET library, everything. In Java, being a open source, any guy can contribute and become a popular. That's how Spring became popular. It's a JSON library. I think now it's integrated within Java 8. I'm not very sure, but Jackson. Then there is one more thing called Gava. It's a Google's toolkit. See, basically these are the libraries where you can process. For processing JSON in Java, even XML in Java, there are so many things. Will not go more much. There is something called XML-based parsers, DOM parsers, SAX parser for XML processing in Java. DOM parser, SAX parser, JAXP, Java API for XML processing. If you go to some standard tutorials on how do you process XML in Java, you'll get all this stuff. Similarly, for JSON, you have a default. Okay, wherever we are now, with respect to XML, you have XML processing in Java. Then for JSON, there is a default Java library also, but very popular is Jackson. So Jackson is nothing but a JSON library. In Python, I mean, if some people I think know Python like Anjali, in Python, there is just one thing quickly, import JSON. There is a direct default library. That's good enough. It does all things for you. Whereas in Java, we have this option. So basically, Jackson is nothing but it's a library. You just use it for JSON processing. I think, Ilyas, you know this, right? Or no? Oh, Ilyas is not yet there. Fine. So, Sohail, you got it, right? Jackson is nothing but a Java processing library with respect to JSON. It's an open source one, contributed separately, but became very popular.
Mm-hmm. So what exactly Jackson does for JSON? Like, let's
see quickly. So guys, even though it's more on microservices and REST services, this processing might be coming. Now, Sohail, since he's working on the actual project, so he's getting more that realistic dots, just like Ilyas. I'm discussing that. Let's see what is Jackson. Introduction. It's going to Jackson Introduction to Electrodynamics.
Yeah.
Java library. Yeah, this is better way.
And one more thing, I always get confused is library and artifacts. Are these both same or different?
See, library typically in terms of Java means jar file, Java archive file. What is there in jar file? Set of Java classes. Mm-hmm. What is set of Java classes? Some Java compiled code. When you run it with the JVM, Java runtime environment, Java runtime environment can actually physically run it. Basically, class is nothing but a function. Yeah. So your code uses some function out of that, and Java knows how to get it working in a machine learning way. That is a library.
Yeah.
Artifact means anything. It could be a library, it could be a file, it could be a Docker image, it could be any damn thing.
Oh.
Where do you put an artifact? You put in some central repository.
Oh.
So normally we use repository for some code. Code repository we say. For artifact, what we say, we use the word called artifactory. Very popular artifactories is open source one is JFrog. Many companies use that. So artifactory is nothing but you dump something. It could be a document, it could be a resource, like a properties file. You have used Log4j, right?
Yep.
So log4j, normally nowadays people are using with SLF4j,
Yeah.
and you need some log4j.properties or some kind of a file. So basically, this anything, even an installer, anything is an artifact. Sometimes your company says, okay, Sohail, don't download anything from public internet. Anything you want, use it our artifactory. So in their custom artifactory, they are saying we have everything: installers, things, zip files, documentation files, every damn thing. So anything you put in artifactory is called artifact, which is helpful in your project. Got it? Sohail, arthamainda?
Yeah, definitely got it. Thank you.
Ilyas. So Ilyas, do you know what is Jackson before or not much?
Not much, just trying to get that one, man.
Yeah, you will get, man. You will get now. Within probably the next 1 or 2 days, you're going to do Google search for 2 to 3 hours. Then you will say, Raghu, I found this very interesting.
No time for that.
Hey, come on, man. Okay. Now coming to the Jackson, okay, fine. Tutorial's point has a better information. See, this is a completely open source stuff. Java itself a open source contribution. Then you have plenty of other people who can contribute. And so in this case, what is a Jackson? So this information is good enough. What is a Jackson? It is Java has some libraries to process the JSON files. At least now you guys know what is a JSON file, which we discussed sometime back. I think now you know what is a JSON and XML file, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
XML file versus JSON file. What is XML? Extensible markup language. Even HTML and XML has a common parent, which is something called SGML, some standard markup language. Then JSON, JavaScript, object notation, a simple key value kind of things. So what we understand in this, heading 2, yes, better. So this is a JSON file versus Java file. Now with respect to Jackson, no, I don't want this. I want to copy this. What is Jackson? So it's just a theory part, and you don't need to go more deep into this. And yeah, so it's just basically a library. Now, these guys usually give the environment setup. I'm just going very quickly because tutorials point has a structure. Anything they'll talk, they'll give some theory. It might be correct or whatever. Then they give some programming part on how you can use it. So with respect to your environment, you basically have your Java. Then you need to download some jar. So this is a library. So hell, this is a Jackson library. These guys use some very old version. If you go to Maven repository, you will see very latest versions. See, all of you might not understand everything I'm talking about, but you can just focus on this thing. So this is a Maven repository for Jackson. Maven is a central repository. And these guys use some version 2.8.9. In the Jackson, they use 2.8.9. Right now, the latest is 2.11.x. I think 2.10.3 is still stable. It's recently released. It's very good and stable. And even last, when I used Jackson, it was in November 2019, which is pretty much last year. Yeah, I was just starting to use these versions, 2.10. So this is how you can see the Jackson versions with respect to library. Now coming to Jackson setup, you just set up some variables like this, or you use it directly in your class path. See, normally what we do, you just put a Maven dependency in your pom.xml. That's it. Your system will know how to use Jackson. Then Jackson standard applications. Let me put this thing, how to understand Jackson, since you're asking. Understanding Jackson with an example. Okay, now you got some idea on what is Jackson. So here I still have some question.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, this is Jackson. Now let's go on to other stuff. So we have discussed about REST versus SOAP. See, it has a lot of differences. We are not getting into each thing, but point is there is something on a level with respect to web services. REST came into the picture. Yeah, this is something I want to use. See, even though all these services is client server, but it's more about a services oriented architecture. Yes, definitely it's a client and server, but typically client and server works only when they have exactly active communication. The service model is different. You call some API, someone responds you back. So it's beyond a client server thing. See, REST, what is REST? REST is an architectural style in which a web service can only be treated as a RESTful service if it follows the constraints of being a client server. Yes, client server is a fundamental thing, no doubt. Then you need to be stateless. In SOAP, you need to maintain the state for the entire session. So SOAP is more secure. Even now, flight systems, especially the enterprise level systems, they still use SOAP for some very critical applications, because you need to maintain a state. When you maintain a state, what they mean is like this. When I call a phone, especially normal landline phone, so you need to maintain the active line, then only it works. Whereas if you see internet stuff, sometimes, many times you see WhatsApp or internet stuff, will say it's not coming well. Why? Because the data is transmitted like in 1,000 packets in some distributed way.
Mm-hmm.
That's actual term is packet switching. So you always have this communication issues normally, especially when you talk over phone. But nowadays WhatsApp and this kind of things is becoming so popular. If internet is normal, you can still communicate better. Now, so to follow REST, to say something as a REST service, you need to say some information. Main point here is uniform interface. Means you have some kind of an API where anyone can call with simplicity of some information. So REST follows some principles. When someone asks SOAP and REST, you can talk about anything, whichever you understand the points here. Out of this table, even if you talk 2-3 points for 2 minutes, that's enough. Because no one knows, no one expects to know everything. And with respect to the SOAP architecture, you mainly have this diagram. Which diagram? UDDI and WSDL. How you describe a web service and then how you discover a web service so that other person uses. And SOAP is still there. In fact, sometimes I used to think SOAP is pretty much dead. No, it's not dead. Some companies, when they need high security kind of stuff, all these things, they still use SOAP. I think it's good enough for now. Tomorrow we'll continue further on REST-based stuff.
Tomorrow, you mean by Wednesday?
Yes.
Oh.
So, any questions till now, guys? Maybe in Wednesday we'll go a bit more into SOAP, and if time permits, we'll just run one sample application. See, this respect to microservices, coding wise, concepts wise, we can discuss hundreds and hundreds of hours. I want to focus on something, and whenever like your really interesting people ask some questions, we'll discuss the specific topics. Usually Elias asks more, but today I think he is trying to digest the information. What, Elias? Yeah, I think yes. Anjali, yes. Anjali, have you understood any little bit or completely forgot? Anjali?
They're all on mute.
No, at least they can unmute. Fine. So I'm not sure how much you understood. You can ask later on. And Atik, yeah, is on mute. Fine. See, point is, I would say for now, this is enough, because many people, many times we talk about microservices, we talk about REST. But point is, how it has evolved, how it has come, including me, most of the time we forget. But yeah, we need to see the basis, communications, that ISO-OSI model is there. Then we have this services-oriented architecture, which is actually client server, but it's not just client server. Client server can happen with some socket, whether you use TCP socket or UDP socket. For this SOA to work, we need much more than that. And this is a typical architecture. You use a very miniature version of this in REST. And the REST, what we need to remember is it's a stateless, means you don't maintain a state. You just pass some information, you get something. It is directly over HTTP. And this is enough for now. Tomorrow we'll continue this, means Wednesday. We'll get into some microservices stuff, some concepts of microservices, how it is different from SOA kind of thing. Then we'll go with some sample example with respect to Spring Boot or kind of thing. Means we'll develop some REST API. I think coding part, you can refer any tutorial, but these concepts will not see very directly in many places. We can constantly discuss anytime on all these concepts. So guys, before we wind up, anyone wants to ask any questions right now? Or that's it, done?
I want to know one thing. What other topics have you discussed before the website?
Sohail, you can talk a bit louder. Your voice is very low.
Hello, can you hear me now? Better?
It's still low, but fine. I will increase my volume then. Go on.
Yeah, I wanted to know before this web services topic, what other topics have you covered?
See, I will show pretty much what we have covered. And all the videos are here. Of course, videos are different.
Okay.
Let me go to the top. So pretty much if you see, we spent a lot of time on core Java. See, a lot of time on core Java means not each and every topic of core Java. Pretty much like some concepts about what is a class and objects, what is the OOPS concepts, what is certain sample programs, wrapper classes, then what are the data types in Java, what we talk about immutable. See, basically immutable was specifically asked by Elias just like you. I just included here. Then we talked about arrays and exceptions of fundamental points like abstraction, encapsulation. What are the various data structures we have, like vector, primitive ones. Then collections in Java, basic collections. Some is theory, some is program, but more I go by specific questions. Then with respect to multi-threading, in an interview, if someone says, what do you know about multi-threading? You can talk about thread class, runnable, callable, those things we discussed. Then Java had features especially focused on stream and lambda.
Yeah.
Not even functional interface or other things. In today's interview with Nisar, yeah, the guy was asking about functional interface. I could not tell completely because I never practiced that in depth. But all other stuff I answered well. Then there is some online tutorials which you can practice with Docker, Git and everything. Katacoda is there. It's a labs, free labs online. Then we started. Yeah. In last class, actually, we talked about singleton. Maybe I can include that information. Singleton, yes, single design patterns overview. And we focused more on singleton related interview question, what to answer. To answer more on private constructor, a public static instance method, then use of synchronized keyword to make it thread safe, then java.lang.object we have discussed. What is this core class which is there in every Java class? Then yeah, clone method, concept of how to avoid cloning of your singleton instance. I think this is also a standard intro question. We discussed this. And yeah, heading to, yes. Yeah, some things you will see find in video, some things you will do in the tag, but more thing is it's a discussion. So there are a lot of things discussed on this way.
Okay.
Maybe you might not understand everything, or everything might not be of interest to you. Going further, we'll discuss about Git a little bit, and we'll do some stuff. Initially, my plan was to do more. Then I saw that many people are not really joining. Like active consultant supposed to join. Somehow Hamza is joining. Very good. Right now he's not there. He was there in the first 30 minutes. That's a context, Sohail. Now you got it right.
Yeah. This Katacoda, this thing is it's like online. You have Java environment there, right?
Yeah. Let me show you. Not just Java. It has labs, including Kubernetes. You have. You can even deploy anything you want. See, it's not about just Java. You cannot practice Java just like that. Everything there. Tutorials point as a good Java. You can practice online Java. This Katacoda is like a labs. You can even have Linux. See, for example, let me talk about Linux labs, katacoda.com. Say I will start Ubuntu.
This all for free, or you have
everything is free. You just need to create a free account.
Great, okay.
With your Google ID is enough. So let me go with Ubuntu 18. Now let me see whether Java is there or not. It is there like a 4-hour session. Once you start, let me just check. Usually Python will be there. Java is, I think it is there. I'm just going clear. Java, let me see what version I have. It's a OpenJDK. In Linux, normally you see OpenJDK. In Windows, we have Oracle JDK. Linux preferred is OpenJDK. License everything. JDK 11, but still we can use it as JDK 8, fine. Python also usually will be there. Python 3.6.7, yes. So Python, Java is there. You can write some Java programs, Java, C, all those stuff. But to practice Java, yeah, I mean, you better do it in your own system with Eclipse or IntelliJ, taking the programs. In Tutorials Point, some other places you can practice Java online, write a code and this thing. But I still, this is more of a DevOps related, or you run like even Git commands. Git is there, yes, Git commands. This kind of things you can use Katacoda. For typical stuff, let's say Tutorials Point, you can practice Java. I'm just showing, you can practice online. Say method references, some example. Normally there's something called try it. Wait. Tutorials Point, Java, try it.
I don't think this is a...
There is a try it option actually. So let me use
Java Point or Tutorials Point?
No, there are so many things. See, I just go and stick with one specific thing so that at least I know. There is actually a Hello World program. Live demo.
Oh, okay.
So you can go to Hello World program, which is basic syntax. And then when you say live demo, you can just go and practice online. So what is the program you have? You just click on execute. This is good for core Java. The Katacoda is like you can work with Docker. You can even work with Kubernetes understanding. You can even work with Git understanding. Anything you do on a command line is pretty good, Katacoda, because it's actually a Kubernetes cluster. You can even practice Kubernetes stuff. For regular practice of Java and specific languages, you can go with the specific tutorials whichever you have seen.
Okay.
With respect to these things, I go with Tutorials Point so that I'm just following one specific way. There are other sites also which provide this kind of online editors. Ilyas, Anjali, Atik, Askari is not joined. Hamza, I think you missed the second session. Fine. Any other questions, guys?
No, sir.
Okay, then Tata, bye bye. See you on Wednesday. Anjali, questions edme illiya? I think she's on mute. Fine.
She just...
Yeah, fine, guys. See you on Wednesday. Bye.
Okay, sir. Bye. Thank you.